In Gospel of Luke 12:2-3, Jesus says something that feels almost startlingly relevant in today's world of hidden motives, private messages, and carefully curated public images. Luke 12:2-3, KJV. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. At first glance, these words might sound like a warning, and in many ways they are, but they are also a powerful reminder of how truth ultimately wins. Jesus spoke these words while warning his followers about hypocrisy, particularly the kind practiced by religious leaders who looked righteous outwardly while hiding corruption in their hearts. They carefully controlled their public image, but their private reality told a different story. Jesus makes it clear that nothing stays hidden forever. Anything concealed, whether motives, actions, or whispered words, will eventually come to light. In the ancient world, secrets might remain buried for years, but Jesus still declared that the day would come when truth would be revealed. Fast forward to today, and his words feel even more striking. We live in a time when information spreads instantly, when private conversations can become public overnight, and when hidden actions often surface sooner or later. But Jesus' message goes deeper than social exposure or public scandal. He is pointing to the reality that God sees everything. There is no darkness deep enough to hide from him, no secret thought that escapes his awareness. While people might fool others, or even themselves, they cannot fool God. This truth should cause us to pause and examine our hearts. Are we living the same way privately as we do publicly? Are our motives aligned with our words? Hypocrisy thrives in secrecy, but it cannot survive exposure. Jesus reminds his listeners that every whisper spoken in darkness will eventually be heard in the light. In the culture of his time, rooftops were places where announcements were made loudly so the whole town could hear. The image he uses is vivid. What is whispered secretly will one day be shouted openly. For some, this is a sobering warning. Hidden sin, secret bitterness, dishonest dealings, manipulation, or lies may seem safe in the shadows, but they will not stay there forever. Whether through consequences in this life or through God's final judgment, truth will be revealed. This reality invites us to live with integrity now rather than waiting until exposure forces it. But there is also hope in this passage. Sometimes it feels like evil hides successfully, while truth struggles to be heard. Lies spread quickly, injustice seems to prosper, and righteousness can appear unnoticed. Yet Jesus assures us that God's justice operates on a longer timeline than human perception. What is hidden will be uncovered, not only the evil people try to conceal, but also the faithfulness that often goes unseen. The quiet act of kindness, the private prayer, the moment of obedience when no one else is watching, God sees those too. In a culture that often rewards appearances over authenticity, Jesus calls his followers to something deeper, a life of genuine truth before God. Integrity means being the same person in the dark as we are in the light. When our hearts are right with God, we no longer fear exposure, because we are not living a double life. The real question this passage asks us today is simple but powerful. If everything about our lives were revealed tomorrow, would we be at peace with what people see? Jesus' words are not meant to drive us into fear, but into honesty and repentance. When we bring our lives into God's light now, we experience freedom instead of shame. The light that exposes sin is also the light that heals and restores through Christ. So rather than hiding in the shadows, Jesus invites us to walk openly in the truth, knowing that a life lived in God's light is a life that ultimately stands firm. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe.